Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Esports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kel Henderson. Again, we're back at it. We do what we do in Vegas. It's IE Vegas. IE Vegas, where we talk about all things Vegas. This is the show built for Vegas sports. We're going to expand tonight. We're not just going to start off with UNLV. We're going to talk about their recruiting, their football recruiting efforts, their new head coach. We're going to review that. On top of that, we're going to go into the COD scene, the Call of Duty scene, Esports. Las Vegas has a Call of Duty team who just settled in the last couple months, who just announced the last couple months. They will be the 2023 Las Vegas Legion. Acquired by a bunch of Vegas investors from Paris. And they won their first match since basically being taken over or being purchased, right? Las Vegas Legion is underway. They are looking to continue the success over the next few weeks. But yes, we're going to dive into the Call of Duty scene, folks. A game that is near and dear to my heart because that's what I tend to play with a bunch of my friends. We're going to touch base on the Golden Knights, then we're going to talk about the Raiders fallout. What's going on with the Raiders? Why are the Raiders in the position they're in? It's almost going to feel like a rerun because we've been talking about it. But I'm going to tell you folks this right now. The Sin City Sports Show, IE Vegas, has been ahead of the curve the entire season. We've been real with you folks about the Raiders. We've been real with you about any sports, but especially the Raiders, the situation they're in, the coach, the players. We've been real with you since day one. We've been giving you sometimes knee-jerk reactions, but for the most part, hey, it's been honest. The Raiders are in trouble. They could still win the last four and not make the playoffs because of the position they put themselves in. And we'll talk about why they got there, what's next, and we already have mock drafts. We have the Raiders placed in the top 10. According to Mel Kiper, I can give you guys a mock draft here when we get back from the break here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Esports Radio. Welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Esports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kel Henderson. You guys can get at us on our socials, at SinCity_IESR, at Kel_Henderson, where we are very, very involved with anybody who tweets, comments on our tweets, retweets our forum. I can tell you guys right now, whether we're always engaged. We're always looking at those tweets. We may agree to disagree at times, but we're still going to appreciate your feedback and your involvement in our pages. So please, it takes nothing, takes zero time. It's no different than a YouTube channel. It's free. Follow. We have nothing but professional feedback. Well, sometimes. Sometimes it gets a little spicy. You guys know how that goes. But please follow those Twitter forums. Again, at SinCity_IESR, at Kale_Henderson is my personal. And before we get into the show, the nitty gritty, we are going to talk about our platform, IE Sports Radio. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shoutouts on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of the flagship show. Hosted by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Larry B., the defining moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Special thank you to Taryn Rodriguez, man. He's one of the best teammates out there. He's always in the chat. Says, good evening, have an amazing show. FaceTiming his brother. He'll be on for the Raiders portion. You always know it's the back half, man. You get it. It's probably going to be a bit of a rant today, so you'll have to excuse me. Yes, Las Vegas Legion. So I guess, you know what? We'll just kick off with that. I love it, Taryn. I love it when people in the chat kind of dictate where the show goes. It gives you. I'm huge on itineraries. I do this in practice and stuff like that. But sometimes you get a curveball, man, and you just want to roll with what feels good. The Las Vegas Legion, just a couple months ago, was purchased from the Paris Legion, from Call of Duty Esports. Esports is getting more and more popular. Call of Duty is one of the biggest games, period. Um, for example, their most recent multiplayer game, which was released in October, has already grossed well over $500 million. Their newest Battle Royale game, which for folks out there that do not play a lot of video games, essentially 150 people get dropped into the same lobby and you're tasked to parachute down into a building or area or a point of interest, what they call POIs, loot the best you can, eliminate other teams, and you want to be the last one standing. The purpose of a battle royale, right? That in itself released in November. So we're just a little over a month with Warzone 2, because there was a first version which made billions of dollars, for that matter, actually at one point grossed Call of Duty or Activision $10 billion in 1 year, has already crossed $1 billion in just a month of Warzone 2 being released. So it's one of the biggest battle royales out there. Pretty soon there will be COD, or I should say CDL, which is basically the COD World League, right? There will be Warzone tournaments there. They will find a way to do it. What's holding them back right now is the cheating, right? Is the anti-cheat. They got to make sure that's buffed a little bit. They have to make sure that's put in place and in a good spot. That way, those CDL matches can't be compromised by cheating, by hackers out there, because they exist. But Call of Duty is one of the biggest games, one of the biggest platforms, if you will, in all of sports. And it's esports, and it's becoming more and more popular. There's more money involved with it than ever. Apex Legends is another battle royale game, huge league. Fortnite, everybody understands what Fortnite is. They've had tournaments for years. So, I mean, it's just one of those deals, man. They have their own league. Madden has their own league. COD is no different. COD's probably slightly bigger than Madden because COD just has millions and millions of players. For example, Warzone 2 launched, again, a little over a month ago. They already have more than 30 million players registered to play on it for free. It's free to download. I'm not here to necessarily, give them a bunch of pub, but it's a lot of fun, and it wouldn't be a bad idea for our listeners to drop into a game if you can. If you have a PlayStation, Xbox, PC, whatever, drop in. Get familiar with it, because this is what we're going to be talking about a little bit here in the esports section of the esports rundown, what we'll probably call it. Las Vegas Legion, one of the CDL teams. New to IE Sports Radio. I asked Larry, I said, hey, man, it's a team. He said, go for it, man. It would be new. It's fresh content. Las Vegas Legion was just, again, acquired about a couple months ago from Paris. Paris owned the rights. Now Las Vegas, or a bunch of investors in Las Vegas own it. Despite being known as the Paris Legion, where the team was founded, the organization has since turned to this Sin City. Sin City being a big market. But ahead of the dates, the team has been unveiled for the 2023 roster. So we are essentially talking about next year's roster, which will be the feature roster for the Las Vegas Legion. And the team is as follows. Donovan Temp Larota, James Clayster, Eubanks. Clayster's a hell of a player. Byron Prolute Vera, and Thomas T.J. Haley, with Dylan Theory McGee tapped in as a roster's head coach. This is what I can tell you. Haley and Clayster have a ton of experience. They're guys that have won a lot of tournaments in Call of Duty. They're guys that have won a lot of games, multiplayer. They're gods. They're basically demigods on the sticks. And that's not a bad, honestly, not a bad roster. Guys with competitive experience mixed with some young guns that are going to probably grow within the game. Hey, that's awesome. Hashtag no floors given. French for, yeah, well, I don't necessarily have to spell that out for you guys here on IE Sports Radio. But hashtag no floors given, Las Vegas Legion, we will welcome that team here in 2023. It's just right around the corner for competitive Call of Duty. Just recently, within the last week, they topped the Minnesota Rocker, to win their first match in 7 months. And it only took a Las Vegas entity to buy them for that to take place. It's going to be exciting. We don't have a lot to talk about as of right now. If you guys get a chance, make sure you guys check out the Las Vegas Legion. I think they have a wonderful color scheme. They honestly, their emblem is pretty dope. Esports is where it's at, guys. If you guys ever get a chance, you're bored, watch some Call of Duty. Especially if you like playing video games or you're used to playing the old COD, it's pretty interesting, man. It gets really fun, especially when you get to see some of those players pull off clutch plays when it matters most for their team. A lot of fun to watch. So you guys get a chance, familiarize yourself, look into Las Vegas Legion, be a fan of CDL, Optic, LA Thieves, FaZe. I mean, all those teams. Lots of fun to watch. Get into it if you can. Again, Warzone is free to play. Download that. Modern Warfare 2 is not the multiplayer, but Warzone is free to play. Hop on with your friends. It's a blast. It's what I tend to do every weekend with my boys. It's one of the best ways I can keep in touch with some of my better friends. Transitioning over to UNLV, they announced the new head football coach, Barry Odom's. Barry Odom. A lot of questions about Barry Odom. I don't mind it. I think it's a defensive coordinator out of the SEC. Yes, it's Missouri, but it's somebody who didn't have much success as a head coach before. He's getting a second chance. It's at a smaller level, and that's okay. Not a big deal. Pitt extends offer to UNLV transfer wide receiver Kyle Williams. Here's the problem. After Marcus Arroyo, and I can tell you guys right now, the players and some of this fan base are very torn with the Marcus Arroyo firing. Marcus Arroyo was, even though they were 5-7 this year, it was still a vast improvement from what we'd seen in years past from UNLV. Marcus Arroyo was providing improvement. Unfortunately, when you have a change, sometimes you're going to see a roster change. Kyle Williams is a big loss. He was their speedy receiver who had over 1,000 yards this year. Kyle Williams is an excellent wide receiver, and he'll probably do a really good job at Pitt because honestly, the ACC is pretty weak, and Pitt tends to do a pretty damn good job of playing football. UNLV, Barry Odom, I think they're just trying to get to the next level, man. That's honestly, they're just trying to see what they can do, bring more experience, and Coach Odom will have a bit more experience than Coach Arroyo had. Simply put, Barry Odom quoted, "I knew that when the job came open, I was going to try and get this job. I believe in the opportunity. I believe in the leadership. I believe in the conference. I believe in the footprint of recruiting. There's only one Vegas in the world. Let's make it special." Honestly, that's what we've been saying here on the show for months. You guys have heard me. I just don't understand how you cannot compete in the Mountain West with the amenities that Vegas has. It's legitimately a party town, right? It's a huge place. Yes, it's expensive to live, but if you're a college student trying to live it up where it's always warm, you might as well. 5-year contract includes a starting salary of $1.75 million per year. There are bonuses involved with milestones, winning seasons, conference titles, making bowl games, and that seems pretty fair. Honestly, Marcus Arroyo couldn't get that done. I'm sure that was in his contract. It's more incentive laden at these lower levels, but 1.75 million you can't shrug at. You could live off pretty easily in the Vegas area if we're being honest. So good for him. Coach Arroyo, here's my thoughts on it. And I kind of agree with Eugene Adams here from Paradise, Nevada. Wrote an article about Coach Odom. I believe I'm confused. I'm just as confused as Eugene Adams was. 5-7 record was not bad enough to be fired. And honestly, when you look at the situation, we talked about it the last couple months. UNLV was struck by injuries at one point when they were 4-2 and they were rolling the Mountain West. I mean, they were doing a really good job of playing sound, fundamental football on the offensive side. They were spreading the ball around, scoring a lot of points. I think they had just come off 2 straight games where they had scored 50-plus points. And then they ran into a buzzsaw with Notre Dame and such, and they just didn't have a couple of their main contributors. I just don't think somebody should have been fired for that, but it is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, this is a business. You have to win. I will say this. I do think Coach Odom has a possibility. There's a possibility Coach Odom is very successful at UNLV. There's a possibility that Coach Odom does a really good job and he finds himself a bigger job in a few years, which is not what you want to hear, but that's kind of the reality of the situation. This is a group of 5 team. They're part of the Mountain West. This is kind of a stomping ground to gain experience to get to the next level. And maybe they don't feel that way. Maybe Coach Odom stays here the rest of his coaching career. That would be awesome. That would be awesome, living off of 1.75 million plus, with bonuses out on top of that for the rest of your life. Coaching a team in Las Vegas wouldn't be that bad. No state income tax in Nevada. It's kind of nice. You got some perks that some people in the silver black kind of take advantage of. You know how that is. But I digress. We'll get to that in the second half of the show. Reality hits in, man. We'll see what the philosophy is here. I would really like to see Coach Odom make an effort to ensure that players like Kyle Williams do not transfer. Brumfield do not transfer. Babin do not transfer. All really good players. All emphasize, hey, this is a good place to be. I would also like to see him really hit Las Vegas hard. There's no way in my mind in a city full of millions of people and high schools that you cannot find quality high school players. like really good high school players. When we look at the recruiting base as of right now, and these are the commits, it's primarily 3 stars. There's nothing wrong with that. That makes sense. Transfers, you have some guys coming in from Michigan State, Mississippi State. See, Ricky White, or wide receiver, transferring from Michigan State. He'll probably be an immediate starter. Marshall Nichols, it's a punter. Aiden Robbins, pardon me. Aiden Robbins from Louisville to UNLV. He'll probably get some really good reps. I mean, Kobe Bryant. We'll see what happens there. Offensive tackle, 6'5", 320. He's going to get immediate reps. All things that you want to see. It is what it is. But those are the transfers that they're looking at in for the 2023 season. And you want to see that. You want to see that. A bunch of 3-stars. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all for a program that's trying to build. And that's something I think Coach Roy did a good job, but Coach Odom has to keep that going. He cannot allow those 3-stars to leave. You have to be competitive in the Mountain West. Let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the 2023 football commits, right? Because we just kind of reviewed the 2022 football commits. Right now there's only 2, and I'm sure that's because of the coaching change. It is what it is. Ed Haynes, interior offensive lineman. That's great, 3-star. And then a linebacker out of Hawaii, James Campbell, out of Hawaii. Another 3-star commit. They both committed. One committed in July, the other one committed September, start of the season. We'll see if that stays up. They got to get after it. Overall rank right now is 129. So Barry Odom's got a lot to worry about, man. He's got a lot to kick in if he wants to really make this team a progressive team. Listen, Marcus Arroyo was doing a great job. Marcus Arroyo was getting this team around the corner. They may have only finished 5-7, but again, when you look at the situation that Marcus Arroyo had to go through, right? You had COVID his very first year. The guy could not get out and recruit. Let's be real. He had no chance. Look at all those smaller look at all those 3-star recruits that were soaked up by SEC teams and stuff like that because they didn't have to really effort that. And then honestly, they were drafted a couple years later. There were a lot of gems that were picked apart from this Power 5, or I shouldn't say Power 5, Group of 5 division, this Group of 5 conference. You know, it makes it really tough for teams like UNLV to stay on top, right, or to continue to progress. Coach Arroyo had a bad stint, man. He had his very first season as the head coach was the COVID season. His next season, shortened year, like 6 games. What are you going to do about that? There's almost no time to recruit. He's done the best he could. They went 5-7 last year, were riddled with injuries from their main offensive players, and that happens. Again, I don't believe he should have been fired. But he was gaining momentum. He was getting recruits. The football facilities were definitely drawing some attention for UNLV. Let's hope it continues, man. Let's hope it continues. Let's hope Coach Barry Odom, who has head coaching experience and is from the SEC, can really use some of that pipeline and bring some of those kids here. But he really has to focus on that Vegas area. There are a ton of athletes in the Vegas area, man. Ton of athletes in the Vegas, Arizona area. Hit that pipeline, that desert pipeline. Keep it a Southwest theme. You know, one of my favorite things and one of my favorite stories was when they talked about the U, right? The 2001 Miami Hurricanes, which was basically one of the greatest teams ever assembled according to the first-round draft picks. One of the things that their coaching staffs did was they cut Florida in half. They said, screw it. We're going to cut it in half, and we're just going to recruit South Florida. I think UNLV should make the same approach with Nevada, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, and the southern border or the southern portion, southern third, if you will, of California. Focus on those areas. Make them your recruiting stomping grounds, because if you do that and you build relationships in that area, you're going to build an excellent team. Because honestly, those 3 states alone, right? New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, you should be able to find some very, very good athletes. If you add that southern tip of California, if you focus on that, you should have no issues rebuilding your roster and getting better. Transitioning over to the Golden Knights. Golden Knights are still on a tear. Tonight they are playing a game, third period, against the Winnipeg Jets, 29-1. They're still top of the Western Conference, killing it. Let's see what we're looking at. Adam says, good evening. What's up, Marcus? Welcome to the show, man. It's been a while since I've seen you. Hope all is well, brother. Always love your boxing content. You have one of the best drops in all of IE Sports Radio by far. Terrence says, still FaceTiming my brother, but UNLV will be back in terms of football. Look at what their women's volleyball team did. Underrated program who won 26 matches this year. Dude, you always bring the gems with volleyball in here. I'm telling you, you're just a great teammate, Terrence. Thank you so much. Golden Knights still top of the Western Conference, 29-1 with 41 points. The next closest, I guess, is the Dallas Stars, who actually went on a run recently, and they're at 39 points. Game currently going on, 4-4, tied 4-4, period 3, 8:55 left, and it was an earlier game because it was in Canada on the East Coast. But, dude, excellent matchup between two pretty damn good teams, especially in the Western Conference. I'd love to see the Golden Knights pull this off, of course, because we are a Vegas show, but one thing I'm really liking so far is the Golden Knights are doing a great job of staying healthy. They're taking care of their players, and they've been on runs this year, a couple runs, and it's great. Adam, you got your Stanley Cup preview last week. Went to Vegas too. I agree, maybe. Oh man, that's tough, Adam. I never usually one that likes to predict that kind of stuff. I honestly kind of hate it. But I mean, when you look at the schedule, I could see that. I could see that. The Bruins and Golden Knights. Bruins are scary good right now, man. They really are. They're just a big physical Eastern Conference hockey team. What are your thoughts on that, Adam? I think the Bruins are a team you just don't want to mess with right now. Really. Stout. Super stout. And I think if there was a 7-game series, I'd have to give the edge to the Bruins right now. I think the Golden Knights could possibly be a better, more well-rounded team. But the Bruins are scary, man. Really scary. But there's a couple teams in the Eastern Conference that aren't playing around this year. Adam, I mean, the Devils are a really good hockey team as well. So you got the Bruins, Leafs, Lightning are always really good. The Devils are excellent. The Hurricanes are no joke. The Penguins a bit older, but they can still get it done. I still think, the Devils and the Bruins are definitely those teams that are really telling you. Adam said Bruins are solid all 4 lines. Absolutely. They did a great job this offseason. And they've done a great job for years developing players. I mean, they're a contender every single year. It's like they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs every year. The Bruins are just that squad in the NHL. They do an excellent job. We're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to dive in to the Las Vegas Raiders, their issues. Why are they there at this time? Why are the Las Vegas Raiders in the position they're in? We'll discuss that when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Esports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at Esports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on Esports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. They are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to the back from the break, halfway point of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. This is IE Vegas, built for the sports fans of Vegas. I'm your host, Cal Henderson, and we're back at it again, folks. Make sure you tune in every week, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk heat, man. We lay the heat down on our teams. We talk about our Vegas teams without prejudice, honest, real, whether you like it or not. It is what it is. That's what we do here. And with that, we're also very real about the moments we're in sometimes, especially in sports. Especially in sports. We have to be real about the situations we're in. And today, unfortunately, it is with great sadness that we have to basically state, and it was broke by ESPN early this morning, Coach Mike Leach, Washington State coach Mike Leach, passed away this morning from a massive heart attack, basically, that he experienced over the weekend. Really sad situation. Mike Leach was probably one of the most genuine, unorthodox human beings on planet Earth. I mean, saying he was a visionary in the game of college football is an understatement. But the way he behaved, his opinions, he was a very educated, very intelligent man. And honestly, I never knew him personally, but I can tell you guys, I looked up to him as somebody who's loved the game of football basically my entire life. One of the first times I ever saw a Mike Leach offense was in basically 1999, 2000, when he was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. That was coincidentally the year that they won that national title with Josh Heupel. One of the coolest seasons you'd ever seen, taking on one of the best players you'd ever seen, Mike Vick. And they just outscored him, man. But in his time there, he developed this love for the passing game. And he said, I think we could run basically the same 8 concepts out of any formation. And as long as we practice that ad nauseum in practice, and we teach our receivers to find openings and our quarterbacks to get the ball out quick, we can beat anybody. Absolutely beat anybody. Mike Leach was essentially, he's being credited as the innovator of the air raid offense, where you essentially throw the ball like 85 to 90% of the time. I mean, it is not unheard of. The Graham Harrells of the world, the Cliff Kingsburys, right? Those guys would throw the ball legitimately sometimes 65, 70 times a game. They didn't care. And they'd throw for over 500 yards. Really would. It was incredible. And I promise you, Cliff Kingsbury did a great job of recruiting Patrick Mahomes. I promise you. Mike Leach was a huge reason that Cliff Kingsbury even had a shot to get Patrick Mahomes, because Cliff Kingsbury was one of Mike Leach's quarterbacks. He was one of Mike Leach's proteges, and the lineage he's left behind, man, unbelievable. And I'm telling you guys, watching his football teams play, especially when they were hot, there was nothing prettier in sports. There really wasn't. The air raid offense was just so exciting. And the one thing you could say, man, and Adam Karnick is 100% correct. Leach was his own man. He did things his own way, and it's what anybody strives to do. Is go out your own way. And I promise you, man, like, my heart goes out to his family, his friends, the Mississippi State players, the players that had played for him in the past, because I'm sure they're all reeling, man. We've heard nothing but positive things about Coach Leach today all over the major networks, and it's really sad. His lineage, dude, like, just to kind of talk about, the Coach Leach coaching tree. Kingsbury is one of them. Sonny Dykes, Lincoln Riley. I'm telling you, all these guys. The Graham Harrells of the world, Graham Harrell, who is not a coach yet, but he will. He's had a long career as a backup in the NFL. He will be a coach sooner or later, especially when you hear from guys like, Aaron Rodgers, who say Graham Harrell's one of the smartest football players he knows. He coached notables like Wes Welker, Michael Crabtree. I mean, dude. Seriously? I think Graham Harrell had one of the greatest seasons in college football history under this. Gardner Minshew was up there. Gardner Mania was the Washington State quarterback. He was Pac-12 Coach of the Year twice. He was National Coach of the Year twice. He led his football teams to 19 of the 21 seasons he was a head coach. 19 of the 21 seasons he was a head coach, he led his football teams to bowl games. That's consistency, guys. And he did it while defying the odds, man, because everyone said, you can't pass it 90% of the time. You can't pass it 70 out of your 80 plays and win football games. He said, watch me. And it was a beautiful thing, man. My heart really does go out to his family. My heart goes out to those Michigan State players who really appreciated him because it can't be easy, man. His coaching tree is just nuts. I don't know if you guys have had a chance, but it is what it is. Head coaches under Mike Leach served. He served under Bob Stoops, so that's not a surprise. Assistant coaches under Mike Leach who became college coaches. Now, I want everybody to listen to this because it's kind of crazy when you start going through some of these names. It is absolutely unreal the type of influence he's had in college football over the last decade. So listen to this. His coaching tree is as follows. Dave Aranda, who's the very successful Baylor head coach right now. Excellent. Big 12 champion Aranda. Art Briles, yes, had a rough tenure. We know about the Baylor scandal. It still is what it is. Jeff Shoddy, Montana State. Sonny Dykes, who's probably going to be the coach of the year this year, hands down. I think he was the coach of the year. Dana Holgerson. Seth Luttrell, North Texas, who's killed it for years there. Ruffin McNeil, East Carolina head coach at one point. Lincoln Riley, the biggest one of those names. Lincoln Riley was basically, absolutely reveres Coach Leach. When you look at Lincoln Riley's system, it's just a modified version of everything Coach Leach did. Lincoln's basically doing a better version of what Coach Leach did of the air raid, and you've seen it for years. Lincoln Riley, unfortunately, I have not seen anything from Lincoln Riley today. I can't imagine. He's probably just distraught, guys. Because when you hear from other coaches around the league, like Lane Kiffin and them, who him and Lane Kiffin had a long history, everyone's hurt, and it sucks. Mike Leach was a hell of a coach, guys, an amazing coach, and man, I hope people really understand the brilliance. He basically created an offense which you see all over football today, and you can't escape it. It's a beautiful thing. So love and respect goes out to Coach Leach, I can't say one of the greatest coaches of all time, but he's an absolute legend. And tough loss, dude, at 61. And the one thing I can tell you right now, and maybe it's not a great segue, but Coach Leach was never a fan of bad football. So we're going to segue to the only team I know how, and that's the Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders. Man, what to say about them? Terrence says, all right, I'm all yours. Okay. Interesting. Taryn, we were just paying our respects to Coach Leach, just in case you missed it, man. The Raiders. What's wrong with the Raiders? I can boil this down to three things, and we'll make it 100% clear, guys. I don't hate. I love my team, but I'm real. I've been 100% real the entire time I've ran this show. We'll go with the top three reasons the Raiders are in the position they're in, 5-8. Okay? He said, wow, no, there was a professional transition. I feel like it was. Mike Leach would have no problem saying the Raiders suck. Because that's the way he was, man. He said what it was. He hated bad football. He did. And the Raiders play bad football. Horrible football. So we'll say it like this. The main reason the Raiders are in the position they're in, Mark Davis. Mark Davis inherited the football team back in 2012 when his dad passed away. The legendary Al Davis, who shaped the NFL we know now today, by the way. If it wasn't for him and the Hunts from Kansas City Chiefs, there would have been no AFL-NFL merger. There would have been no NFL-AFL merger. Al Davis is a legend. His last 10 years of owning the team was not great. We all know that. Al Davis was kind of on borrowed time, unreal salaries. It was not good. Mark takes over a team that his dad was really passionate about and built and had a saying, commitment to excellence. And since then, there's been 2 winning seasons in 10 years under Mark Davis. It has been an absolute shit show. It's been embarrassing. I can say this. I think Mark Davis is a genuine guy, and I think he wants to win. But it's quite obvious Mark Davis has absolutely no idea how to do it. His first hire in 2012 was Reggie McKenzie as the general manager. Wasn't against that. Reggie McKenzie was a well-renowned scout throughout the league. And actually, he did draft some really good players for the Raiders who are currently still, like one being Derek Carr, are viewed as really good players in the league. Reggie McKenzie hired Dennis Allen, who, at the end of the day, we point the finger at Mark Davis because he's the one that signs the checks. He's the one that says, yeah, okay, I'll ride with it. Dennis Allen was there for a year and a half. He went 5-18. Like, he legitimately made it one full season at 3-13, I believe it was, and was 0-4 to start the next season, was fired. Tony Sperano was put in charge. That was a disaster. Again, they ended 3-13. Were able to draft, essentially, Amari Cooper the next year in the top 5. Cool. Jack Del Rio was hired. Probably his best hire. Really, he's basically the only coach that had a winning record as the head coach of the Raiders since Mark Davis took over. Jack Del Rio had his faults. Jack Del Rio made some mistakes, but he had a magical 12-4 season with the young gun Derek Carr, who was really shining before he broke his leg. That being said, the following season, where you could argue the team was probably more loaded than the year before, they only went 6-10. At that point, John Gruden expressed interest. Mark Davis' really good friend, and somebody that Mark Davis really wanted to bring back because he had a bad taste in his mouth from the Al Davis era. Al Davis traded away John Gruden to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a couple high draft picks, which was unprecedented at the time. All because Al didn't want to give up any control, which was probably the right thing to do considering we saw what happened in John Gruden's second tenure. Was there improvement happening? Yes. Do I think if John Gruden's the head coach now that they're winning games? Absolutely. I think they have a winning record this year. Do I think they had Devontae Adams? No, because I don't necessarily think Mike Mayock and John Gruden had the spine to pull off that trade and the tact to make that trade as team friendly as it was for the Raiders. So now we're at Josh McDaniels because we all know the Gruden fiasco. We're not going to get into that. Josh McDaniels took over a team that was 10-7 in the playoffs. They basically experienced the most tumultuous season in Raiders history, probably NFL history. Let's do a quick overview of that, shall we? The emails came out about John Gruden, week 5, when they're basically 4-1 and they're rolling. A few weeks later, the Henry Ruggs tragedy, which was heinous, unbelievable. What can you do about that, right? So you lose your head coach and basically your improving yet speedy wide receiver who could stretch the field within a month and a half of each other. 3 weeks later, you lose your other number 1 draft pick from that same year, basically. Damon Arnett, who was an absolute joke. He didn't play well. He was trash. He was just not somebody who should have been on the roster, waving a gun in a social media camera. What an idiot. Lost his job. Okay. Again, tumultuous, right? Taryn chimes in, they should have kept Rich Bisaccia. At this point, Taryn, you're not wrong, man. Listen, I will be the first one to say, you guys can go back to listening. I have receipts. I will be the first one to say Josh McDaniels was not on my radar when we were trying to hire coaches. I would have said, I don't think Rich Bisaccia is the guy because at the time Jim Harbaugh sounded like he was interested. Of course you go after Jim Harbaugh. Imagine. Jim Harbaugh knows how to win football games, man. He really does. Look what he did with Alex Smith. Imagine if he'd have been able to get his paws on Derek Carr, who is a more talented version of Alex Smith. I'll say it like this, man. Mark Davis made the decision to go with Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. I'm not against the Dave Ziegler thing. But right now, Josh McDaniels is tough. It's really tough to analyze that. So Mark Davis is the number 1 reason why the Raiders are in the position they're in, and he's the biggest reason why they have 2 winning seasons in 10 years. Poor ownership, poor management of a franchise tends to lead to just really bad teams. And it's something the Raiders just haven't been able to escape for 2 decades, not just the last decade under Mark. But Mark's the one in charge, so he should shoulder majority of the blame. Josh McDaniels is the second reason. It's a glaring reason. It's huge. He came in. He wanted to redo the culture. I get it. Okay, that's fine. These guys, these bastards, legit stood on a podium and said, I came here because I like Derek Carr. I came here because we want to win. We see a ton of potential here. All the while, guys, I can tell you as we speak, no coach in NFL history has lost 4 games when having a 2-touchdown lead in the same season. No coach in NFL history has done that. Josh McDaniels, has lost 5 games when having a 10-point lead or more this season. Single season. It's never happened before in NFL history. A lot of really horrible firsts. Terrible. And that's on Josh McDaniels. When you see a habitual thing that is not being corrected by the coaching staff, that you do not see reflected by the play of the players on the field, that is a coaching issue. Untimely penalties, collapses late in games, embarrassing losses like, I don't know, to the one of the Colts, where a high school coach who had never had head coaching experience in the NFL steps up and outcoaches your coaching staff. Dennis Allen, former head coach, wasn't a very good head coach at all. Great defensive coordinator, not a very good head coach. Outcoaches your coaching staff, and the Saints beat you 24-0, which should have been a winnable game, right? Let's put it like this: the Arizona Cardinals game 2, you're up 20-0 at home going into the half. You lose 27-23. Absolutely pathetic. And the cake of it all, man, and this might be the worst loss I've ever seen, because this team has talent. You have the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. You have the number 1 running back in the NFL. Suspect offensive line, I grant you. But a top 10 quarterback, statistically, before last week's game, was a top 10 quarterback. And you, the 26th ranked defense, who played really well most of the game, allowed a quarterback who had 2 days of practice with the team, who was a number 1 pick, and I don't care, I'll say it right here, right now, I believe he's a draft bust. Absolute joke of a player. The Raiders, of all teams, did what Raiders do. Raiders are gonna Raider. As my friends have said it for years. They made Baker Mayfield look like a Hall of Famer. With just 2 days of practice, man. That's on Josh McDaniels. Your star wide receiver, the best one in the NFL, and I don't think a lot of people could argue that, is Devontae Adams, and what he's done this year, with little to no help, tells you he's special, man. He's a Hall of Fame talent. The guy only had, get this, he only had 6 targets last game. 6. 3 catches in the first half for 71 yards, was making Jalen Ramsey look like a fool. Can you guys guess how many targets he received in the second half from this 6-time Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator? 0. None. Zip. Zilch. The best wide receiver in the game had no targets in the second half. The Raiders had 60 plays. 59 plays on offense. Can you guys guess how many times they ran the football against the number 5 ranked defense against the run? 40 times. They ran the ball 40 times. Your running back got injured. You still ran him like 10 to 12 more times. Taryn says, Raiders should have beaten the Rams, missing Matt Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and who was starting Baker Mayfield. Absolutely, 100%. Less than 48 hours away. Should have beaten them. They jumped to like a 13-point lead real early. Again, it's embarrassing. Probably the worst loss I've seen. At this point, and I hate to say this because I don't want to be that person that questions somebody's fortitude, but I have no problem saying it. In late games, it seems as though Josh McDaniels is a beta male coach. It was 4th and 1 on the Rams' 49-yard line early in the second half. At the time, you're averaging 3.9 yards a rush. I don't understand the math there. I would rather keep the drive going and melt the clock more. On 3rd and 1, in your own territory, where the Rams basically had no timeouts, you decided, as a coach, Josh McDaniels, who is a joke right now, in my opinion, decided to put the best wide receiver in the NFL back at the running back position and the best running back in the NFL so far this year at the fullback position. You're not telegraphing anything, am I right? It was a joke of a play call. It was ridiculous. And again, I don't want to question somebody's fortitude, but at this point, I'm honestly questioning whether Josh McDaniels has been trying to win this year. Because in my mind, there is absolutely no way a coach that coached for 20 years under the greatest football coach in NFL history could be this effing stupid. Could be this inept. It makes no sense at all that the number one wide receiver in the NFL would not have the ball thrown to him, even a small slip screen for 1 yard when you need it most. There were multiple questionable play calls, Taryn. It's been that way for the last 6 weeks. I've been dissecting the film, and it's horrific. There are times where he's spot on, but when it comes late in games, it's almost like he's trying to throw the game. And that's kind of where I'm at, because there's no way a coach this smart, this well-respected in the NFL could be this bad when it matters most. And all I can think of is right now, the Las Vegas Raiders hold the number 10 overall pick. Their offensive line is garbage. Their defense is still horrible. Even though they're playing much better, they're still ranked the 26th defense in the league. And somehow, Derek Carr is getting all the blame. So yes, Josh McDaniels right now seems to be garbage. It looks horrible. And we're in such a bad situation that it wouldn't be better if somebody called plays. That's the kind of position the Raiders are in right now. And that sucks. Do you guys hear how bad that is? We have a head coach who apparently doesn't know how to distribute the football to the best players on his team. Granted, Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow have been out for like 8 games. But even if they come back this week, which sounds like they will against the Patriots, it doesn't sound like Josh McDaniels has a clue on how to distribute the ball to them anyway. We're in such a bad position that we can't hand the play calling duties off to anybody else. That's where we're at. We're stuck with Josh McDaniels, and it sucks. And Derek Carr is the focal point. So I'll say this, the third reason. These players do not execute well. Untimely penalties. They're god-awful sometimes. But that falls on Dave Ziegler. So I'm going to put that blame on Dave Ziegler, not the players. Dave Ziegler made this roster. Dave Ziegler put together this roster. He revamped this roster after a 10-7 season where they made the playoffs. Didn't just make the playoffs, they were the 5th seed. And we went down to the wire with the eventual AFC champs, the Cincinnati Bengals. They dismantled that roster, you guys. I want everybody to understand this. Yes, they bettered it in some ways, but they dismantled it. Somehow, they are doing a great job of accepting zero responsibility for their end of this and pushing it on the players, and you can hear it in press conferences. They're not accepting responsibility for bad play calls. They're not accepting responsibility for bad signings. They're not accepting responsibility for a lack of depth on the offensive line. When your offense is, imagine how good this offense would be if Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, and a decent offensive line stepped up there. Imagine. They're ranked 11th right now. It's horrible, man. And they're accepting zero responsibility. And to make this 100% clear, Dave Ziegler is the third reason why they're in this position. Because he's the one that signs the players. Period. He's the one that decided to trade for Rock Ya-Sin, who isn't available. He's had a good season. But it's not as good of a season as Ngakwe's having over there for the Colts, who has like 12 sacks this year. Slightly more than Max Crosby, not Max Crosby's fault. You sign Chandler Jones to $17.5 million a year, and he's got 4.5 sacks this season. Pretty effing embarrassing. It's pathetic, man. It's an organizational failure. And all the blame, for whatever reason, is being thrown at Derek Carr, who and I'm telling you this right now, guys, because NBC Sports with Mike Florio, which is absolute garbage, threw Derek Carr a bone for the first time in years and said, since Derek Carr has been the quarterback, his defenses, on average, through 9 seasons, have allowed 26.1 points a game. That is absolutely pathetic, and that's an organizational failure. That tells you have 2 decades worth of defenses that are absolutely horrible. And yes, it could be worse. The Raiders could have Nathaniel Hackett. I get it. The Raiders could have Russ Wilson, because that's what a lot of Raiders fans wanted, was Russell Wilson. I think we could be seeing the end of Derek Carr. I personally believe that he probably gets one more season with a little more revamped offensive line and a much better defense next year. but I don't have confidence, man. I don't have confidence in what Josh McDaniels is doing. And I don't think anybody should be thinking about that. He's not with CBS, he's with NBC Sports. Mike Florio is not with NFL Network. I don't think NFL Network would ever stoop that low, Taryn. Mike Florio is an absolute joke. Absolute joke. Like, he has the worst takes there. He's Pro Football Focus, I think is his No, that's not it. Which one is it? He's got his own little Twitter handle and nobody likes him. He's horrible. Awful. Mike Florio is garbage. And he's been so bad about Derek Carr, calling him a method actor and a fraud human being, stuff like that, while supporting people like Russell Wilson. PFT, Pro Football Network or whatever it is. NFL talk show host, NBC Sports. Yeah, Pro Football Talk. The worst Twitter page out there. He's a joke. He's absolutely garbage. I have no idea how he has a job. But I don't trust this team. I don't trust this organization. They made it seem like they were going to win games, but it's obvious. It doesn't seem like they're looking to win games at all. At all. It feels like they're trying to throw them, because there's no way in hell a 6-time Super Bowl champion offensive coordinator, someone who coached under the greatest mind in NFL history, could be this stupid. Could be this bad. And it's horrible. It sucks. Raider Nation deserves so much better. The most diehard fans in all of sports, and we've been treated like crap for 2 decades. And basically 8 out of the 10 seasons, Mark Davis has owned that. It's obvious he doesn't care about our opinion. He thinks he knows better. And how's that gone for him? There are some real Raiders fans out there like myself, like others, that have platforms that could do a much better job of picking the right people than Mark Davis. Because I've listened to it for years. Regardless, everybody played bad. Nobody's exempt. They should all be like, they should all feel terrible for the way they've done. But there's still hope. I don't think the Raiders make the playoffs, but they do need the Patriots to lose two games. They need the Chargers to lose 2 games, the Jets to lose 2 games, the Browns lose 1, and they have to win out. There's still hope. Raiders happen to play 2 of those final 4 teams that we're talking about. It's very possible it happens. And they finished 9-8, which is better than what we were expecting. Now, actually, you know what? We were expecting 12 wins with the type of team here. And when you lose 5 games, and 5 of your 8 games are lost by a combined 16 points, that's pathetic, man. That means you're getting out-coached. It's not okay. Adam said this is a long list. That's a very long list. That's why I said I don't think they make the playoffs. And it's a failure of the season. And someone's going to get scapegoated. And I have a bad fear that it's Derek Carr. And I'm not against them leaving Derek Carr or moving on from him. But you better have a better replacement or an upgrade. Otherwise, it's a joke. Absolute joke. Chargers Titans could be the pick 'em. I mean, Titans are struggling, but the Chargers look like they're getting hot at the right time. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. This is another edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Esports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Make sure you guys follow us. It's free. Takes no time at all on our Twitter handles, at SinCity_ISR, at Kale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports, all things sports in general. Again, our heart goes out to Mike Leach, man. Our heart goes out to his family. We lost a legend today, and I honestly think that should be focused on. I know I went on a rant about the Raiders, but the greatest pirate of all time, Mike Leach, man. A legend in the coaching community. The legend of the air raid. Much love, much respect. Love, peace, and hair grease, brother.